Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Writer's Corner live show. We connect authors to each other and we help readers find new authors to love. You probably already have your favorite type of book, either fiction or non-fiction, but you never know. We may just introduce you to your new favorite genre to love, or even help you discover some books that don't fit into any of the traditional genres. You will get to meet new as well as seasoned and aspiring authors on our show. Some of our seasoned authors will share their tips and tricks of how to get published right the first time. On the Writer's Corner live show, you get to hear the backstories straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So join us live. And welcome, everyone. Hi, Mary. How are you?
I am great. How are you? I'm so excited. We have a very exciting day today. We have just a wonderful interview that we're getting ready to do with a very, very fascinating man. He's done things from one spectrum to the other. And he has a very long bio and history of being in TV and producing and writing. And he's so interesting. So I can't wait to bring him on. And we want to let everybody know that you produce shows. So if anyone is looking for someone to produce a live stream for them, they can find you on your Brigitte Lambanda on, I guess, Facebook, right? Or do you have a website that you would like people to look for you?
My website is called brigitte.live.
Okay, there they can find you. And I'm Mary Elizabeth Jackson, and I am an award-winning children's author. I write empowering books for kids. I'm also an advocate for special needs. And we forgot to say that on our last show. We didn't introduce ourselves. We were so excited. We just jumped right in. So, and I know that we're ready to bring on our guest. And he's having wine, and I'm having coffee, and you're having tea, probably with milk, aren't you?
Yes, and that I absolutely am. Should we bring our guest on? Because we did it live yesterday and we went through everyone's biographies because there's so much about our exciting authors. I absolutely love the show. I cannot get enough of it. And we've already decided to do a second show.
Yes.
We're running back to back from today, and this is amazing. So shall we bring on Hamilton?
Oh, absolutely. Let's waste no time at all because I know he has a lot of things to tell us and we probably have a lot of questions and it'll go really fast.
Let's do that. I know. Let's do that.
Okay.
Great. And welcome to the show, Hamilton.
Hi. Hi, Hamilton. Okay, let's start off with cheers. Let's all cheers. You ready?
All right, cheers.
All right, let's cheers. Clang, clang. All right, we'll have a sip and we'll get started, right?
Good South African wine.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. What's your favorite kind? I don't know much about South African wine. My husband probably does. He's in that business. But are you strictly a white or red guy?
I like both, but I tend to drink more white, particularly at this time of the year when it's lovely and warm and relaxing. I mean, our garden is just absolutely overflowing with flowers. So a nice cool Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc, perhaps an unwooded Chardonnay, tends to go best with what we're experiencing here.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going into the winter here, so coffee is really good, or a hot toddy or something.
Absolutely.
Just not at 11 in the morning because I still got to do my day and take care of kids, so I got to stay awake. Yeah.
Even by South African standards, 11 in the morning is a little early if it's not a champagne break.
Well, it's always 5 o'clock somewhere, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's 6 o'clock here. So
yes. So there you go. Absolutely. Well, Hamilton, would you like to let us know your most recent children's book? And then what you're working on and where I know we have lots of questions where you wanted to talk about how you've transitioned from, one genre and you've transitioned really like 180 degrees, absolutely, to another side, haven't you?
Yes, I think that may be a temporary transition. I started writing Arabella. Let me get the books out of my bookshelf just to show you.
Oh, yes. Look at his bookshelf. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Can you see the US flag in the background?
Oh, no. Oh, you have a flag. There you go. All right.
That was given to me by the US Marines when I filmed with them 5 years ago in Helmand Province in Afghanistan, and they clubbed together and bought me a proper full-sized US flag, and they flew it over. They flew it over the combat zone and as an additional source of honor. And so it's a tremendous. I don't think they could have paid me any greater respect or honor than to have given me that flag. So I don't mean to talk about politics here, but the relationship men to men on the ground, and in fact, not only men, human beings to human beings on the ground was great, and I honor that.
Wow, I have goosebumps. That's amazing. What a blessing. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it really was. So the first book I wrote, if you can see it here, does it come up upside down on your side? Or
No, I can see it.
We can see it fine.
It comes up as Arabella, the Moon, and the Magic Mongongo Nut. I started writing that for my kids when they were quite little, and we were renovating the house. And so they had to sleep on sleeping bags in the living room floor, which is a wooden floor, and they had to eat microwave meals that we bought at the local supermarket. And I decided to try and write something about what would one day we hoped be a beautiful garden, which it is now. And so Arabella the Moon and the Magic Mongongo Nut got written and got published and did very well. And then I wrote the sequel, which is Arabella, the Secret King, and the Amulet from Timbuktu. And this is about a different story. Arabella, who's obviously the main hero character in the story, goes on hockey tour to a little seaside town called Knysna in South Africa. And there she meets the terrifying Krakelbeck, who's a kind of African griffin. And he has a scorpion tail and a crocodile's head, and he has a vulture's wings, and he has the body of a hyena. So he's quite a scary creature.
It's like Harry Potter in South Africa.
No, it's a little bit like Harry Potter. I mean, it's my own inventions and my own mixing of what might be seen as traditional Western fairy tales and mythology with what I've picked up in Africa. It's not a retelling of African tales. It's very much my own created characters, my own created mythology. There's the mysterious Book of Echoes, which if you pick it up one way and you read it like that, it tells you a message, and then you turn the cover over, and of course this is not the Book of Echoes. Then it tells you another story, so you have to decide which story to believe. So you have to make moral choices about what you do with the knowledge you gain from the book, which I think we all do.
That's brilliant. Yes.
Are those stories based on real life, or are they all completely fictional?
Well, Arabella's school life is a little bit based on my daughter, Caitlin. But what I found very quickly is once the book started, particularly as we went into the second version, the story of the characters very quickly took on their own life. And it wasn't any more Caitlin and her friends and her cousins' life any longer. The narrative demands of Tando and Lwazi and Yasmin, who also part of her friendship group had to do, became paramount. So, I started off basing it on the kids' lives, but very quickly the story itself took over.
That's amazing.
And do your children, when they read, do your children read the books, first of all?
Well, they're quite big now. They're 20 and 22. So Nicholas, my son, read it and thought it was quite good. Katie, I think, read it. She was studying very hard for a law degree, so she didn't have a lot of time to read it. But they did when we were little. It was very much, their responses very much triggered where I would go emotionally and subconsciously and psychologically with the story.
It's wonderful.
And could they identify with any of the characters? Could they see themselves in the characters, or did you hide that very well?
Yeah, that's a good question. Arabella has some difficult choices to make. She has to choose whether to believe what she reads in the Book of Echoes, whether it's backwards or forwards, and she gets a magic feather from the hardy-dar bird, which, Mary Elizabeth, you might not know about hardy-dar birds, but they're big. They're big hardy-dar ibises related to the sacred ibis, which you've probably seen with the black head and the white body. The difference is the hardy-dar, the sacred ibis doesn't make a noise. The hardy-dar ibis make a terrible noise like that. Oh God, I've somehow gone into iTunes, which I didn't want to do. Are you still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Yes, we
Can you
are.
hear us? Yeah, we're here. It's okay. You can sing. No, we'll listen.
And so the hardy-dar ibis, their king is Ozymandias from the Percy Bysshe Shelley poem. And he is a great and evil king who perceives himself as far greater and more evil than he really is. But he wants to steal the magic mongongo nut from Arabella and her friends. And the magic mongongo nut allows her to turn into a butterfly, which gives her all sorts of magical powers. But the evil king Ozymandias wants that for himself. Now, just as a little bit of a spoiler, Ozymandias might well be coming back in the third one because he was banished.
Are you working on that one right now?
I'm working on that one right now, yeah.
Okay. And do you have a publishing date or a release date for that yet?
No, I don't have a release date. It's still very early days. I'm beginning to get more confidence in the narrative. You know, when you start off, there are many, many different paths you can take, and some of them are clearly not going to be the right paths. So part of being a writer and a growing and more experienced writer is seeking advice as to what might be a better path to take, so that you don't waste a lot of time that you have to re-edit. So I'm still very much at the early stages of the third one.
Okay.
So since you've written so many books, do you find that you have a specific time of the day when you feel inspired to write, or is it sporadic? And do you use a software to write, since you're an experienced writer as opposed to a new writer? Do you write pen and paper? What's your style?
Okay, I don't use any specific software other than Microsoft Word. I do use a pen and paper from time to time to take down notes. I often send myself emails. If I'm driving along to the shops and an idea occurs to me, I stop on the side of the road and I send myself a quick email, about 50% of which are useful and about 50% are just random ideas that don't really carry the narrative forward. I like to write early in the morning, but certainly throughout the day I get ideas. And those I send to myself as an email. You know, working as a television producer as well, I don't get a lot of time some days to be thinking about my fiction projects. So if I can get an email or two off to me, to my inner me in the middle of the day, that's a great advantage.
Sure. Do you like one over the other? Do you feel like your writing is your escape from, is your TV producing like your real job, you know, your serious profession, and then your writing is your escape and your hobby?
Yeah, of necessity, I made my TV producing my real job, if you want to put it in those terms. It does pay quite well. The phone does ring quite often. So it's very useful. But particularly now, I've had so many positive responses from the second Arabella story, which is the Secret King and the Amulet from Timbuktu, that I don't want to sound pompous, but there's a real need to finish it.
Sure, no. Right, I can see that. I was going to ask you, when was the second one published? How recent was it published?
Well, the first one was published about 6 years ago, and then we had a situation in this country where Nelson Mandela was very ill. We had Oscar Pistorius, so I was working incredibly hard just on pumping out the sort of daily news about what was happening in South Africa. But I worked on The Secret King and The Amulet from Timbuktu, and that got published earlier this year. And now the other one it's going faster.
Well, it sounds so interesting. I mean, it sounds like it would be a great movie or film for kids or series. What is the age range for these books?
Well, 8 to 12. And, you know, girls will read it a bit younger, and you can also read it to kids who are a little bit younger. And, you know, sometimes girls will also read it older, and sometimes you can read it at a class. But 8 to 12 is basically the sort of age range.
Okay, so it's a fantastic.
I want to just quickly...
Go ahead.
I want to just segue quickly from your previous question, Mary. So Hamilton, you as a TV producer and reporter, you reported on 15 wars. Now, that must have done something to you as a person being in the trenches. How did you segue from that into being able to write children's stories? Was that a form of escapism? Was that therapeutic? Is it therapeutic for you? Is it a brain dump to escape from the harrowing effects that you must have felt in all those years covering war stories?
Well, it's an interesting question, and I don't have a pat answer for it. I don't have a complete answer. All through my life, I've read fantasy and mythology, as well as other books, by the way. Hemingway's toughest war stories, you know, Virginia Woolf. I even read Milton's Paradise Lost once, you know, which was quite hard going, but I read Dante's Inferno. I never got quite through the rest of Dante. So the symbolic life has always been very important to me. I mean, so you've got a balance there. I mean, it's extremely important to have the life of evidence when you're doing war reporting, you're doing conflict reporting. You can't always know what's happening on the other side of the front line, but you need to report with as much evidence and as much evidence-based journalism as you can possibly muster. On the other hand, the symbolic life became important to me. I think it's hard to say. There was a moment in my life, and I don't say this, you'll see me looking away while I think. I don't say this as a hard and fast rule, but there was a moment where changing children's imaginative relationship with their landscape that they lived in became a more interesting challenge than going and finding the next rebel leader. And it's not that I'm not really reporting on war zones, but I wouldn't necessarily rule anything out at this point. I'm not going to go to Homs in Syria, for example. It's too scary. It's too dangerous. But at the moment, I'm focused on the Arabella series. I'm focused on the Jungian journey that it takes me through, on the imaginative effect that it has on children, and how I believe there are a few messages. It's not a messagey book. It's a story book, you know.
It's a fantasy. Fantastical.
Yeah.
Imaginative, creative. It's an escapism. It's it's a thrill ride. It's allowing kids' minds to go and all the places they go, which is so incredible, because we don't, as adults, a lot of times we stop, we forget how to do that. And especially in the work that you were doing, I mean, that's so serious. So your inner kid coming out is probably, like Brigetti said, is probably very therapeutic in many ways.
I haven't thought of it as clearly and as concisely as that, and I think that's a really, really valid insight. I think it's a valid insight. I think that I'm definitely more aware of my inner kid. And at the moment, he is certainly prompting me to continue this journey. I mean, just before I put down the phone to you, I've just finished a story for German television about a guy who was a leader of one of the prison gangs who then managed to teach himself to do computer coding in Pollsmoor Prison in Cape Town, and is now running a school for kids in Langa Township in Cape Town, so that he's completely changed his life. So that I'm not sort of disappearing into the world of Harry Potter and Edith Blyth and his Dark Materials, Philip Pullman. They are an important source of inspiration to me, but I think your point is really well taken, Mary. I think, the inner kid needed to come out.
Well, because we can only take so much seriousness in the world. I mean, and you've been, we're in the trenches of parenthood, right? And you've been a parent, but where you've been has been the literal trenches. And so our brains can only handle so much of that before we've got to find a way to, okay, let's come back to something that's a little bit more peace and calm and balanced and a little easier for us to deal with, So I totally can understand how you've been led on this journey. Your inner kid, if we want to call it, your inner psyche has led you this way. And, I know that when I write, I feel like I could sit and write kids' books all day, and I do younger children than you do. I'm moving into that age. But for me, being in that world, it's like, oh God, it's so refreshing. And it's just so much like the world is so serious. And there's enough yuck out there. So let's spend some time here, and it's refreshing and it's lighthearted and it's happy and it makes my heart smile and it's joyful. And it brings back that part of me that sometimes goes missing when I'm being a mom and dealing with whatever issues I'm dealing with. And certainly for you and the work that you have done, which is incredibly admirable, but it takes a toll, I'm sure, after a while.
Yeah, it does take a toll, and I'm proud of that work, and I'm proud of the evidence-based journalism that it was based on, and remain still doing that work, not quite to the extent that I was doing. But yeah, there are rules in the fantastical world as well. Mm-hmm. Harry Potter has to get onto the platform at 9 3/4. Mm-hmm. He can't just get onto a platform and disappear. Maybe that's a rule in a different set of fantasy novels. But you've got to, and that's what makes it challenging and also challenging for the characters, is they have to act and make moral choices within the rules of the cosmos, if you like. That's too strong a word, but of the universe that you have created. So Arabella has to make brave choices, and her friends tell her, if you don't make this choice, we can't be responsible for what the outcome will be.
Wonderful lessons.
This is the way that magic works. I'm not telling you all the choices she has to make.
That's okay. We have to read to find out.
Do you want each book to be seen as a story on its own, or as a collective, as one work?
A bit of both. The next story, Arabella, the Secret King and the Amulet from Timbuktu, she gets an amulet all the way from Timbuktu because Akbar, who is selling brooms on the side of the road in Joburg, to make a living, doesn't mean that because he's poor that he also doesn't have access to the world of magic. So Arabella doesn't get a magic mongongo nut in the second book. That was a different magic pathway that was gifted to her by people who knew she could use it. Now she is gifted an amulet from Timbuktu. And I won't tell you quite what yet happens in the next one. But Ozymandias, who is the king of the Hadidars and who is a very evil, greedy, selfish king in the first Arabella, is almost certainly going to come back in the third Arabella. And we'll have to see how he behaves himself.
Probably naughty.
Let's see.
Oh, I love it.
Hamilton has being an author changed you as a person in any way, or was it just something natural in you as a gift?
Well, it was something. I mean, I started off studying engineering as a late teen after I left high school, or more strictly speaking, building science, which is a form of civil engineering and Bachelor of Commerce. And I didn't really fit with it. I always joke that I never would have been. I realized I was never going to be an actuary when I got caught reading Pride and Prejudice in double maths class. So that wasn't going to work, you know. Pride and Prejudice spoke to me a lot more than integral calculus, you know. So it has always been a natural thing for me. I've also very strongly wanted to be part of the world and to live in the world. So journalism and television journalism, working as a team with a group of people, men and women, because about 50% of our team is women now. You know, it's not a male-dominated world any longer. Being part of that team has been extremely important to me and to my psychological upbringing and psychological growth and to the way I've enjoyed life.
And I can't believe we're almost out of time. Where can people find your work?
The best way to find it is on www.clockworkbooks.co.za.
Okay.
And then another question I want to ask you also, were all your works traditionally published, or did you self-publish any of them, and why did you choose either one?
Well, I've always been traditionally published. This latest book, Arabella, the Secret King and the Amulet from Timbuktu, I've gone with a much smaller publisher where I have paid for some of the production costs, although not all. So it's a kind of a hybrid publishing. And I'm making a lot more money out of this book than I've made out of any traditionally published book. I have to do the work. I have to go and read at school. I have to pay a publicist. But I had enough faith to know that it wasn't just a vanity project. We are selling it through the traditional bookshops, and we see them only as a positive thing. But if I go to a school book fair and I read the book and I sell copies, I'm going to do better at that school book fair in one morning than I'm going to do at any number of traditional booksellers. So, of course, I love bookstores, but I sort of saw the writing on the wall about 2 years ago. I had a very, very bad back operation, which put me on my back for 2 months, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even read, believe it or not. So thank God for Netflix. And that made me think things through. So I'm not ruling anything out, but I think the old way of going cap in hand to a traditional publisher and saying, please publish my book and give me a 3% royalty after the deductions from the distribution and everything else have been taken away is under threat. On the other hand, don't publish rubbish. You must pay a professional editor. Very often those freelance professional editors are exactly the same people who will be working for the big publishers, and they'll probably charge you a little less to work for you as an independent, or team up with an independent publisher as a possibility. There's no hard and fast rule, but there are options that there never used to be.
Yeah, it's changing so much.
Yeah, I just want to say to people who might be listening out there, don't think that your ego is better than the editor's ego.
That's good. That's good. That's good advice.
I think so.
Yeah.
The editor, he or she will absolutely guide you. An experienced editor, particularly someone who's worked for the bigger publishers, will absolutely know how to guide you. Remember that it is and don't, unless you are a graphic artist, don't try and design your own cover. Pay somebody a little bit of money to design your own cover.
Yes.
But please, 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 I would say to anybody who's listening out there, do not save some money and pay an editor properly to do the editing.
Yeah, get out of your way, get over yourself, and listen to constructive criticism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That is some
Absolutely.
sage advice.
Thank
It's
you.
been awesome. I can't believe the time has passed us by so
I
quickly. That has
know.
been fantastic.
Hamilton, will you
Well,
come back on? Will you come back on the show? Can we have you on another time?
Yeah, please do. Just drop me an email. I'm happy to come on anytime. What a pleasure.
Okay, we need to get him on Coffee Talk.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It was awesome having you, and we'd love to have you back again. Thank you everyone who's watched the show live. Thank you to everyone who's watching the show on the replay, and we look forward to seeing you back next week again. Thanks everyone from Cape Town in South Africa. It's goodbye from me.
And goodbye in the middle of the States in Tennessee. Bye from Mary Elizabeth Jackson.
Bye-bye from me.
Bye everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.